And you're pleased with the way things have worked out?
Every time a place like this passes to the next generation, it's a victory in itself.
Well, of course, they were ready to say goodbye to Downton at the end of the last film because they were obliged to say goodbye to Maggie, who had a funeral rivaling Winston Churchill's as the picture came to an end. But in this film, we wanted to make the point that this may be the end of a member of the family, but it wasn't the end of the family.
Well, the last film, which was called A New Era, you could see the sort of beginnings of the changing of the guard at that time. This film, you actually see the change happening.
I think it's a loving portrait of the characters handing over to the younger generation. And we really dig into the emotion of that.
Things change, my lord, and somehow we must change with them.
Whilst it's coming to the end for us, it's not for the characters. Their lives are continuing.
This is the new era. We're actually in it now. And I think the reality of that for Robert is setting in. There's been a lot of talk about Mary taking the reins, but not actually doing it just yet.
Robert, how are you getting on with Mary's plan to plumb the cottages?
It's not Mary's plan, it's our plan.
There's a reluctance in Robert to hand things on because even though he said he knows it's right, when he realises that his principal function in life, which has been maintaining the status quo at Downton Abbey, what is his function going to be thereafter? I think that's something that anyone facing retirement might contemplate.
Leave the heavy lifting to Mary.
And what am I to do? What is my job?
We grapple with that a lot in this movie. People trying to adjust to change. A lot of the characters are looking at retirement, at renegotiating life as they knew it. Times are changing.
Well, it's Mr. Carson's last night in service. I couldn't let that pass unnoticed.
It's Mr. Carson's farewell dinner for good.
Mr. Carson.
And we're in London, so there's only a small staff there, so it's intimate, but it's lovely.
When you get to the end of a career, one looks back more than one did and thinks about all the changes we've witnessed. Carson is Downton Abbey in a way. I mean, he's worked there for 50-odd years. He's the embodiment of the old-fashioned spirit of the place in some respects. He's the downstairs father of the house.
I would like to thank you, Mr. Carson.
You've taught me so much, and I hope one day I'll be a worthy successor.
Well, the house is changing, evolving, like with every year. So Andy's about to step up to become the main man.
We have a new butler, and a splendid one too.
Carson will miss the routine, really. I mean, anybody who retires, who's dedicated themselves to one job, changing that routine will be incredibly difficult.
Charlie, let him do his job.
So be it. But Carson knows that he's passed on his knowledge to Andy, and I think he's confident that he's a proper person.
Taking over Carson's position, it kind of all bleeds into one, having a bit more responsibility as an actor as well as a footman turned butler.
I'd like to ride at 10 tomorrow.
Of course, my lady.
I think one of the great themes of Julian's work on Downton has been that sort of passing on of the baton. And it's something that most of the characters have experienced. After years of being in the background, I'm changing lives. Mr. Molesley, he's had a strange career. He's sort of gone from being a butler to a footman to a school teacher, and now he's writing films for the cinema. None of which was expected. There's an article on my new film. I bought some copies for the house.
How exciting!
And then, you talk about Daisy. She's had a remarkable change in her life.
Daisy is cooking dinner tonight, and from tomorrow morning, I'll have retired as well.
So bring your complaints to me.
What a merry-go-round.
It's bittersweet because Daisy will now be taking over from Mrs. Patmore. It's sort of hard to get your head round the transition of that.
His favourite is bangers and mash.
Well, tonight he's getting Cockhill, Sanjak and Gressingham duck, and he better like it.
I think Mrs. Patmore is very supportive.
Quicker!
She's handing it over and she's saying, I know you're ready to do this and it's yours now. And she says, life is made out of chapters and I'm starting a new one and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think she'll just very much enjoy being with this one person who she's very fond of.
Are you looking forward to leaving?
Oh, I don't know the answer. I'll have Mr. Mason, so I won't be lonely.
It's funny when you think back to when we first started. Mrs. Hughes and Mrs. Patmore were a bit at each other's throats. But of course, they've become huge mates. And of course, in life, Leslie and I are great friends. It's terrific fun.
Tom's transition is ever-changing. Obviously, the massive one from being the chauffeur to suddenly sitting at the table. The fact that he's kind of become a confidant and an aid to anyone in the house who needs him. He's a voice of reason. When you took charge, there were emperors in Moscow, Vienna, and Berlin. And your parents were king and queen of this part of the county. Well, that world is gone now.
I feel very fond of Tom, the chauffeur, because I get him mixed up with Alan Leach in my mind, and I'm just so crazy about Alan.
Let's get you a drink. You've earned it.
But I have different relationships to all the characters. I love the Cora Roberts scenes because we see the machinations of a good long-term partnership at work, which in their case, and in probably any long-term partnership, it's about negotiation, it's about communication, but it's not without some conflict, disappointment, and all those other colors.
I don't wear a sack over my head. I see how you treat her. Don't you want her in command?
No, I do. I've said so. But now the moment's come.
You can't bear to relinquish the crown.
But I especially love my two daughters.
Edith and Mary have matured. They've always loved each other, but there were a lot of times, you know, they didn't like each other very much, and they're very different.
You can't be grateful, can you?
Ooh, are we going to have a fight?
There's no point fighting you. You never admit when you've lost. Over the years, Edith has forged her way. She became very independent. She found a career, and I think that fulfillment made her a lot happier and a lot nicer. She's able to show a lot of kindness to Mary. She's not as insecure as she once was, and she wants to step up and use her influence maybe to help when Mary's in a jam. Now Mary says you slept with her in London and you're threatening to tell the world. She doesn't care, of course. Classic Mary. But I care.
And it's just like with any family, when things really start to fall apart, the family are there to pick up the pieces, and, you know, Edith really steps in and helps Mary through it. So I love their relationship, and I love Laura.
I'll admit it now. I've been very lost for a while. But I think I'm coming out of it at last.
Thank God for that.
Looking back, it's amazing the journey that everyone has been on. So we're just trying to relish every minute.
Cut.
Good. Okay, that is a release of Michelle. That is not your end.
Yes, one more day. So today we're filming one of the last days at Highclere Castle. So it's quite a big day for us.
And action.
Goodness. Thank you. Like the old days.
Cora and Robert are going off to live in the Dower House, so everybody's saying their goodbyes and sort of looking ahead to a new era, really.
I think this is a beautiful way to end it. Very poignant, very bittersweet.
I love these characters that we've lived with for so long. And because we have lived with each other so long, we've inherited a kind of bond that you really can't fake.
Mr. Carson.
Thank you.
That's what I love about it, just these little moments of humanity between the different characters, with the added poignancy that very often these moments are their final moments together. And I think put all that love into these rather formal lines, in a sense.
Yeah.
Yes, this is the final day of the shoot. We've finished. We've literally finished shooting Downton Abbey forever. It feels very surreal. It's been an emotional day. It's been a magical day, actually. Really, really magical.
I don't think I will ever say goodbye to Mary or Downton. I think that Mary will always be part of me, and the show, of course, will be. And we're such a family that for us, it never really ends.
Over these many years, we've been through every twist and turn of the story and every life change that's happened to the cast and crew along the way.
Liz has been an extraordinary partner for 15 years.
We just love each other, and we love being in each other's company. And so we just feel incredibly grateful that we've had this journey and people have appreciated what we've all done so much. It's extraordinary, really.
Thank you to all of you who I've loved working with.
Knowing that this is the last one, I don't think I've got my head around it yet.
Over. Done. See ya. See ya.
It will probably be something that hits me in years to come. We all want it to be the best that it can be in a fitting way to say goodbye.
Yeah, I think we all feel very proud that people are saying that the show has meant something to them and their family, that it struck a chord because of the dynamics within it and the feeling that you get from it. And I think that is because all the different roles that people play, be it in front or behind the camera, they have become family over these nearly 14 years for us.
It does feel strange that we seem to have reached the end of the road, and it has been quite a journey. And I think we've concluded the story in exactly the right way, and that comes down to every one of you, and your work has been fantastic. Thank you very, very much. On the whole, I'm a little bit sad, I suppose it's coming to an end, but I'm jolly glad I was part of it.
I think that's a wrap here, guys. That's a wrap, everybody. Roll sound, please. Roll sound. Action.
For this movie, we have a new landscape that the characters will play in. Horse racing at Royal Ascot, the county show up in Yorkshire, but also enjoying the West End of London and all that has to offer, because it's something we hadn't really done in big scale before.
What a lovely night.
The London season's always good fun.
The principal adventure for the Crawleys this time was to go to London for the society season.
Late May to early July of every year, all of the aristocratic families, wherever their estates were up and down the country, they would all come to London. The season was a hugely important social event.
These families had their London base for the London season. They'd had it for 1 or 2 centuries, and they were centres of tremendous entertainment.
It's party, party, party. Society, lunch parties, the Debs Ball, all these things where the socialites get together and celebrate the new youngsters coming into society. And it's a big part of the social calendar.
I don't mind admitting it. After tonight, I'll be ready to go back to Downton. The London season's endless. I'm worn out.
You enjoy the season, you know it.
So we use the London season as a backdrop for Mary starting the film at her lowest ebb.
Picture.
So pretty.
It was the ball of the season, our opportunity to showcase an incredible white tie event. We brought out the tiaras, the diamonds, and the gowns, and my starting point was central to Mary, to the fact that this is just before the news of her divorce breaks.
The Petersfield Ball red dress is stunning. From the first sketch to getting on those last final touches of the jewels was just such an incredible process to see that happen creatively.
I really wanted to costume her in red, a really bold tomato red. It's this incredible gown that is really striking and on camera, really quite vibrant and bold. And from that, the rest of the palette comes out. So looking at a cornflower blue on Cora and then finding this really beautiful lame and silver for Edith. And as a kind of trio, that took legs.
The blue dress that I wear for the ball, and particularly the way it reflects the light, is just so interesting. There's a kind of interplay of textures.
My ball gown felt like the biggest nod to the 30s that were coming in. It feels far slinkier and elegant and very low-backed, and they had to find ways of hooking it up so that we could also dance.
With my dancers, we've had to think about the fact that it's not just dancing all the way through. We've got breaks, we've got dialogue, we have to be mindful of the dialogue, we have to react to the dialogue, but in an organic way. And then you can
I'll go slower.
slower there.
There,
because
this
that's
is
quite
great.
Nice. Just to actually rather straightforward, as though you were actually upset from what had happened. And it is quite a significant point, I think, for the film, because it's at this point that we've got the royalty coming, and of course that was the whole reason why Lady Mary had to leave.
I am sorry. Well, so you keep saying.
Your Royal Highnesses.
Oh, it's quickly. Hide, hide.
What I love about it is you've got this beautiful ballroom with everyone swirling around dancing, and then you've got the family literally hiding under the stairs having a little domestic issue.
What an absurd woman.
The pomposity of high society mixing with the scandal of the Crawleys' shame as Lady Mary's divorce leaks out. So I love that sort of range. It's quite funny.
Today we're filming the scenes at Ascot, but we're actually at Ripon. It's kind of one of the main events of the film where the family come together and they go to the races, and it's a really exciting day for everyone.
This is a beautiful old racetrack that's meant to double for Royal Ascot, which has been renovated since the period of the movie.
The Royal Ascot looks like Terminal 5. It's a huge, skyscraper we're building. Ripon has still got a lot of period features, so not every shot had to be CGI, it had to be green screened, and it's a very quiet course. I mean, we're now in the middle of the flat racing season, and we had 4 days filming plus 2 days to prep, so we needed clear time frame to actually create the physical side of Royal Ascot that we're building.
What was unusual about Ascot was there was a sort of place for all these different layers of society at this one event. And you had the royal enclosure, and then you had the boxes. Lots of people in the boxes didn't have badges for the royal enclosure and so on.
The Royal Enclosure is a beautiful old building, demolished in the early 1970s. So we needed to create that physically, otherwise it'll be just more green screen and more CGI. So that was something we had to build ourselves.
The film is really about that society breaking up and starting to disintegrate. I think that was the point of including Ascot. The fact that divorce kept you out of the royal enclosure. Those rules, and the endless clothing rules and everything else. I mean, all of that I find very fascinating.
Many people come to race with no interest in horses at all, but they've come to be seen. And actually, if you were an aristocratic family that were not here, you'd miss out on a big chunk of the connectivity that these opportunities provide. It's all about glamour in that people know that they're on show.
I mean, Ascot's just such an amazing opportunity, and as soon as you read it, you just think hats. So it's like a millinery masterpiece in terms of the number of hats that we wanted to make and see, but also the impact that they were going to have. So that was the sort of starting point, I think. And then palette. The dress code obviously is formal, and we've got the gents in morning suits, which are still worn to this day. So that gives you a sense of how formal it felt. We've got lovely little kind of character detailing within that uniform that the upper classes and the aristocracy would have worn. So little things that give points of difference to the gents. But essentially they are in quite monochromatic looks with silk top hats. And then that leaves you colour to play with the women. And the palette that we wanted to achieve was really light and bright and chiffons and laces and prints, but keeping all of the colours really light and frothy and summery.
It was wonderful to see our family in their finery. And my favourite shot of the whole film is actually the Crawley family walking across the track from the royal enclosure to their other tent. And it feels a bit Ocean's 11 or something like that. It's very beautiful.
For our family and for our women specifically, I wanted a really strong trio of colour, which started, I think, because I found this original pink lace dress for Edith, which made so much sense because of the scene that she has with Sam Brooke, where she's brilliant and she's strong and she's cutting.
You have to find another place for your playground. England will be dead to you. So the new contacts you've been making all day will avail you to nothing. Have I made myself clear?
And I wanted to belie that with her being in quite a pretty pink and white really elegant and feminine look so that that sucker punch comes in really strong. And so from there, I had this original dress that I found in Paris that was a kind of very delicate navy lace for Lady Mary that wasn't quite right, but was the inspiration. And from that, we sourced lace and recreated something for her, waisted with a kind of very 30s silhouette. And then for Cora, we went with a soft turquoise and a Devore. So we were, again, playing with the different textiles that you can get from that time.
The horses require a lot of time on camera, so there are a lot of cameras. There's like 11 cameras that they're using. And for us, it's a really exciting day because it's more about the event around us, which is really nice because we get to just have fun.
The sound of the hooves, the speed of the horses, the crowds, the hundreds and hundreds of extras is unlike anything.
Ascot was really fun. There were incredible set dressing and horses racing for us, so it was very exciting.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Yorkshire County Show 1930.
The county show, which we shot on the Yorkshire County Show ground outside Harrogate. That was, again, a few days of quite big sort of fairground activity and who's got the biggest bull and all that sort of stuff.
We could have, I guess, done it in a field with some marquees, but one of the first questions I asked Gareth, I said, is this the village show or is this the county show? He said, yes, the Great Yorkshire Show. So we basically looked at Harrogate Showground, which is where it's supposed to be.
The county fair was so lovely. It's really special when both upstairs and downstairs are all together doing a scene because we get to hang out. And I felt very conscious to just, you know, soak it all up.
Lady Mary is sitting in the front row with the family.
Are you sure? Because you have plenty
I'm
of
quite sure.
Simon Russell Beale, thank you, Lord, was sent from heaven to play Penelope Wilton's bête noire because they're both in charge of the county fair, and of course they're at loggerheads.
We're turning it into a circus.
It may come as a surprise, Sir Hector, but we want our visitors to have a good time.
And he's just hilarious.
Oh. Behind us you can see a sort of fun fair. And it's actually the annual agricultural fair that Sir Hector has been running for years. And he doesn't like the fun fair bit that's been added this year. He likes it firmly agricultural, and this isn't his idea of a good agricultural show.
Simon Russell Beale morphed beautifully into the 30s. We popped a lovely little moustache on him, which I really liked.
Actually, the moustache does quite a lot of the acting for me, to be honest. I mean, it's a wonderful moustache, and it changes my whole face, so it tells the story, doesn't it?
You want to carry on walking back? We'll do this a couple of times.
It's a wonderful scene. We're here playing 1930s brass band music. We set up in a traditional brass band formation, so it's like a half circle. We've got a mixture of instruments, cornets, which are like squashed up trumpets, really, euphoniums and tubas and trombones. Just the traditional brass band instrumentation. And also some walking through parts to do, which have been really exciting for the kids. They've thoroughly enjoyed that. It's been great.
There's a fair amount of period, traditional fairground equipment in the country. The Helter Skelter's genuine from the 1920s, I think, 1906, I think, even earlier. Some of them are recreations or reproductions. Lots of them now are very electronic and lots of flashing lights and neons and things, but the ones we know and the ones we got were more traditional and added the fairground and added other aspects of it to give it its 1930s look.
Thanks to you all for this great honour, and thanks to Lady Mary, the new mistress of Downton Abbey.
There's so many elements to what makes Downton popular. It is beautiful to look at, it's beautifully shot. The costumes and the makeup are just amazing. The cast have been incredibly welcoming to me, so it's a great honour.
Any time that we get to do kind of a big spectacle, it's really enjoyable. It is the final movie and we've gone all out.
I've got the best collaborators imaginable. The design, the hair and makeup and the costume, they elevate every moment in the film. And sometimes they're truly breathtaking.
It's always great fun to depict historical British culture, real activities that these characters would have been involved in, multiple parties and balls and events, and going to the theatre. So I was really thrilled with Julian's idea to introduce Noel Coward.
Noel Coward at Downton? I came upon the fact that Noel Coward opened Bittersweet in 1930.
We're living in the age of Noel Coward.
Exactly. He was already a big star player and writer because he just got the mood of the period he was living in perfectly. He understood who his audience were and he knew exactly what they wanted.
That's my role, to spread sunshine wherever I go.
Funnily enough, I've been trying to make a film about Noel Coward for about 25 years. Most people remember him as this old, grand man, but we have him as a 30-year-old when he was like the Harry Styles of his time.
To have Noel Coward in is such a bold move because most of us have heard of Noel Coward and he sort of represents that era, and Artie's doing him so well.
The stately homes of England, how beautiful they stand.
He became this total powerhouse of theatre. He wrote about 60 plays. He also came to epitomise a kind of Britishness.
That's my way.
And for him to interlope in the world of Downton grounds it and anchors it in history and reality, but also injects a little bit of spice, which Noel was all about.
Nothing's changed here since 1850.
Well, you can see women's ankles now.
Well, it's not much use to us.
Noel Coward was a hugely influential person because of his capacity to capture aristocratic Britain. Was itself a means through which, in a wooden horse, homosexuality came to the heart of the aristocratic system. He managed to get through that barrier and made it easier for other people to do so.
I was talking earlier to your uncle about your divorce. What happened?
Well, I doubt I'll be asked that again tonight.
It may be a surprise, perhaps, to the younger members of the audience, the extent to which divorce was not accepted. Mary, in a way, is forced into being a more modern personality than she probably would have chosen to be if it had been left to her.
Divorce in high places. Come on, read all about it. There you go, love. Thank you so much.
As a modern woman, you can't quite fathom that that's what the attitudes of the people around her would be, but it was. I shouldn't have come. And so we really had to embrace that and lean into the stakes being that high. And I think the result is great because it puts her on this journey. Of course, it's all ludicrous. Ludicrous or not, it's time for me to leave, and with little fuss as possible.
Then we're coming with you. Don't try and talk me out of it.
Papa, you know perfectly well you can't leave before the prince and princess.
I argue that it would be far more powerful for Robert and Cora to leave and stick with their daughter, because blood is thicker than water and it's important that they stand together. The Crawleys against the world. But Julian absolutely pushed back and was adamant that in society, you just wouldn't do that.
The aristocracy expected people once married to stay married forever. And if you fell short of that rule, you were taken out with the joys of the society that was available to you.
Everyone is refused. All of them. Golly.
A house full of Yanks and I'm the one keeping people away.
It's ruthless. And it's very difficult now to comprehend how ruthless it was.
Shall we go to the royal enclosure?
Go, all of you. We'll stay here.
You sure?
I am.
In terms of how vulnerable it makes her, from a costume point of view, it has been great because we were able to explore a little bit of vulnerability and a softening of her palette and use different fabrics, different tones, some different textures. My team are fantastic, and what it starts off as is very, very good research. Authenticity is really important.
Society can learn to live with divorce. It'll be true here before too long. It's always hugely fun for an actor. You wear this stuff from another era, and you really feel like you're just transported and taken to another time, another world.
I'm grateful.
Noel was a style icon, and I could see when I first met the costume designer this sort of absolute delight in her eyes of what they were able to do with my character. The range of looks is ridiculous. I have like a midnight blue tuxedo for dinner and tweed three-piece suits.
You've only got 4 or 5 looks to establish Noel Coward, whereas Mary has existed in the audience's mind for a long, long time, so everything makes a little bit more sense, and you can do one costume and it actually sums up 20.
You look just right.
I was definitely inspired by Chanel. Vionnet was another reference, Lanvin, and a lot of Vogue fashion plates and fashion photography from the time as well.
The tailoring is so exquisite, the level of details. It's like every single person is a walking mannequin. I mean, this hat, for instance, this is old lace that they sourced, then Anna made this creation.
Ascot was a real feat. We're pulling hundreds and hundreds of costumes and then we take them up to Yorkshire weeks in advance. It was about pulling together the best of what there is out there.
It's hard to describe the level of detail until you're actually sunk in the crowd and you see how each costume is perfected to the nth degree.
We had people in doing millinery, doing alterations, customizing, adding, so that we could bring it up to the kind of highest level.
The two of you will be upstairs. I'm going to be down at the bottom of the stairs. Hat off over medals. I've been with Downton Abbey from the very beginning, and I have a cameo role in each series and each film. For this film, I'm one of the greencoats. And the greencoats are there to make sure the right people come into the royal enclosure. And if you haven't got the right badge, you get stopped. In this event, I have the privilege of seeing the Prince and Princess Arthur arriving and making sure that they go up into the royal box unencumbered and looked after by my more junior greencoats.
The Royal Ascot set piece was challenging and interesting. You couldn't just pick any course because it just was fine. You know, you needed the geography of Ascot, this long straight and the bend at the end. We ended up at Ripon because it had the most period features that we could use without CGI. There was a balcony for the royals to be on, so we felt that was necessary to build that physically.
Those are the rules we live by.
A lot of research has gone into making sure that the royal box behind me is as it appeared in 1930.
And then the other 2 floors above will be topped up by VFX. We got one of the smallest race courses in Britain to represent one of the biggest race courses in Britain. I mean, 1930, the Royal Ascot was 75,000 people there, so big job for VFX.
Preparing for being here is a lifetime of being interested in how the aristocracy behaved, how they reflected the court, and how here, when you bring in Ascot, the court and the aristocracy together, and weave it, you get the tapestry that is Downton Abbey.
Downton Abbey, it's the imagination of the audience that brings it to life. They support us, and as a group, we're very grateful. Welcome to Downton Abbey.
It's a kind of escapism in its purest form. It allows you to enter into a world of romance.
The modern world comes to Downton.
I feel like it took a minute to get my head around that. It's actually ending. Yeah. For us, it just feels so very strange.
It's a lovely feeling, that, isn't it? To think that we've been a small part of bringing someone joy. You know, it's lovely, actually, to be a bit of that.
I had someone yesterday say we watch it as my whole family with my parents and my grandparents, and it brings families together, so what a privilege.
I think also being part of something that genuinely feels so special for cast and crew, you know, just the sense that what we were doing really made a difference to the people who were watching.
And it's still going on. I mean, like 2 days ago, somebody came up to me and said, I'm on my 3rd go of watching the TV season. I love it so much.
But I do think also the people behind the scenes, like the costumes, the props, the set, everything is there. It's delivered up, and those are tremendously clever people.
And actually, they're personally invested. When we did the last scene, and it was quite hard, wasn't it, on everybody? And then there were people in the crew that the big boys were actually weeping.
Bravo! Long live Downton Abbey.
Amen to that.
From investing in a character because they identify with that character to the experience of watching the show with a loved one who may not be with us. It really has touched people in many, many different ways, and that, I think, means something to all of us.
Absolutely.